Fear Not, Episode 115. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today, you and I are going to be joined by Isaac Ilidsky. Hi, Isaac. How are you doing today?
Phenomenal. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, thank you. Are you ready to fear not today?
Absolutely.
Isaac is blind. He's also a CEO and a corporate speaker whose new TED Talk has already reached more than 2.5 million viewers. He is an author and an entrepreneur, as well as leading ODC Construction, Florida's largest residential shell contractor. As a child actor, he played Weasel on NBC's Saved by the Bell, The New Class, and has appeared in over 100 commercials. As a graduate of Harvard University and Harvard Law School, Isaac is the only blind person to serve as a law clerk on the U.S. Supreme Court. His debut book, Eyes Wide Open, is a New York Times bestseller and draws on his experience of achieving immense success, joy, and fulfillment while losing his sight to a blinding disease, to show us that it isn't external circumstances, but how we perceive and respond to them that governs our reality. Isaac, can you take a few extra moments to fill in the gaps and maybe also give us an additional brief glimpse of your personal life?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, I lost my sight progressively to a blinding disease. So I was diagnosed when I was 13 years old, and over about a dozen years, I sort of slowly lost my sight in a way that produced all these bizarre visual effects and really kind of shattered the illusion of sight. And though it was very difficult, frustrating, and painful at the time, it turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. I gained invaluable insights by losing my sight. And I literally saw firsthand the immense power we have. It's our ultimate power, I believe, to really shape and create the reality we want for ourselves, to in every moment choose who we want to be and how we want to live our lives. And that vision has, as you said, brought me great blessings in my life.
Isaac, would you also share with us today one of the biggest fears that you've had to face?
Sure. So, blindness itself was at first, when I'm 13 years old, right? And by the way, there's nothing wrong with my sight. I'm perfect. I'm on top of the world, living this Hollywood fairy tale, acting, and get a sitcom and all this. And then one thing leads to another, and I'm told by this researcher, this expert at an eye institute that I have this blinding disease and I'll sort of slowly lose my sight. He tells me there's no treatments, there's no cures. I can't tell you how long it's going to take. Good luck. It was basically the message. And from that day forward, for several years, I was terrified. I knew that blindness was going to ruin my life. I knew it was a death sentence for my independence, the end of achievement for me. I knew blindness meant I was going to live this unremarkable life, small and sad and alone, because no woman would love or respect me. I knew, and so I'd never be a father, and on and on and on. And these were lies. These were awful fictions born of my fear. But at the time, they felt real. They felt like things that I knew, and they felt like truth. And that's the real pernicious thing about fear in life. We can, if we're not careful, if we're not aware, we can experience that which we fear as truth, as reality, and in so doing, too often it becomes reality.
So, what did you do to get beyond those lies and the fear?
So, I mentioned that the deterioration of my sight sort of shattered the illusion of sight, the human experience of sight. And that was an amazing insight for me. We have this, feeling that, you open your eyes and there's the world, right? Seeing is believing, sight is truth. It's immediate, it's passive, and, and there you have it. I saw, as I lost my sight, that, that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, sight is this complex, personal, virtual reality that your mind creates for you. And it involves far more than information from your eyes. It involves your conceptual knowledge, your memories, your opinions, your emotions, all these things, both shape and are shaped by, the experience of sight in your mind. In fact, data from the eyes is only about 10% of sight as far as the brain networks are concerned. So that was a sort of, if you'll pardon the pun, that was an eye-opening vision. That was an eye-opening realization. And because I saw this fundamental contradiction that we create this reality in our minds that is unique and personal and virtual, and yet we experience it as fundamental truth, as reality, as sort of object, as something that's out there, that's immutable. And for me, the sort of aha moment was the realization that the same is true of a lot of our lives, in particular our fears. Fear has this way of immersing us in this reality, this awfulized sort of version of events that is fiction, but feels real. And then fear is really only one of many other ways too. So the self-limiting assumptions we make about ourselves, the way we perceive so-called weaknesses and so-called strengths in ourselves and others, our misconceptions of what success means and what value means, and the way we look at luck in our lives. All of these things really, if we're thoughtful, if we're aware, if we're intentional, it's kind of within our control to shape, in every moment how we want to live our lives and who we want to be.
So how do you go about doing that?
Okay, so breaking it down. With respect to fear, often, we face our greatest fears, when we confront the unknown in times of change or crisis. And that's where sort of our ignorance is often our greatest sort of liability, our lack of experience, our ignorance. Because that's really the sort of the void that fear fills with all this sort of worst case scenario and doom and gloom and all this stuff. So for me, the way to see through my fear, I start with two very simple questions. What precisely is my problem right now in this moment? Not tomorrow, not in some distant future, not the big amorphous sort of conceptual framing of the problem, but the sort of very discrete, specific details that I'm confronting right now, this moment. What precisely is my problem? And the second question is, what precisely can I do about it? And the emphasis is on I. In this sort of awful reality of our fears, often we see heroes and villains in our lives, and we are led to believe that there are others we can credit or blame or seek rescue from, or fault for the circumstances we confront. And that's really how fear kind of keeps us on the sideline, prevents us from kind of breaking fear's spell, so to speak. So the second thing I do is ask those two questions, try to make sure I'm not seeing heroes and villains anywhere in my life, that I'm sort of resting responsibility squarely on my shoulder, or on my shoulders, I guess I should say. And yeah, that's a good start.
Isaac, you clearly have a very healthy perspective towards fear. And beyond your experience, you must have come across some pretty good material, resources, what have you, that has helped you to be who you are today. Would you be able to share some of those with us today so that we might be able to incorporate them into our own lives?
Really a lot of this is I have a hard time pointing at any one particular book or experience. I mean, I'm an avid reader. I love books. I've learned a ton from authors and mentors who've gone before me. But this has really been my sort of eyes wide open vision or philosophy has really been the culmination of, at this point, going on 25 years of a lot of thought and life experience. So it's just kind of it's the way I see it. It's the way I see life. It's the way it is in my world.
Are you ready for the speed run?
Sure.
What individual, whether they're fiction or real, has made the most impact on your life?
Without question, my wife.
And if you could instantly change one thing in the world, what would you change?
I wouldn't change a thing.
What's your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness is probably anxiety. I tend to be anxious. It's something I struggle with a little bit.
What's your biggest strength?
Clarity of vision.
And if you could only have one book to read, what's that book going to be?
Oh, I couldn't possibly pick just one book. Geez, I don't know. I'm gonna have to take a pass.
Do you have a favorite sound?
Favorite sound? Well, it's got to be the sound of my kids laughing.
And Isaac, if someone would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So the easiest way is probably just to check out my website, which is just mylastname.com. So it's ilidsky, L as in Larry, I, D as in David, S as in Sam, KY.com. And you can check out my book or TED Talk or blog or whatever from there. And also, please do give me feedback. Let me know what you think. I read every single email. And
what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
The advice I'd like to leave you all with today is you can live sort of by happenstance or in reaction, or you can make the choice to live with intention and awareness and purpose, and decide who you want to be in your relationships, in your career, and at home, and in your heart and soul, and that choice is yours.
Sounds excellent indeed. Thank you so much for that. And I want to let everyone know, too, that Isaac has generously donated a copy of his book, Eyes Wide Open, that we'll be giving away. So if you'd like the opportunity to win that book, please visit the giveaways page at www.livingbeyondyourfears.com and submit your free entry form today. Isaac, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today, sharing a little bit about your story and how you deal with fear today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the support.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.